Ever get that nagging feeling that maybe what we see, what we touch, it isn't quite the full picture? Like
Mm.
maybe the laws of physics we rely on are more like, well, really good suggestions.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that sometimes. It's this deep sense that there's something more going on underneath.
Exactly. And if you're listening because you have that same drive, that, curiosity to figure out the real nuts and bolts of reality, well, you're in the right place. Consider this your shortcut to getting up to speed.
And what's really exciting now, I think, is that this isn't just armchair philosophy anymore. We're actually looking at ideas with some real traction, potentially backed by emerging data. It makes you really question basic assumptions.
It really does. So today, we're diving deep into a concept that's, frankly, pretty mind-bending. The idea that our whole universe might just be an incredibly advanced simulation.
And our guide for this exploration comes from Brian Bothma's work, specifically his books, The Cosmic Computer, Exploring Reality Through Information, and the follow-up, Reality as a Dual-State Simulation.
He puts forward this really interesting model, the CP-GPU duality.
That's right. Picture it like this. The universe has two layers. There's a kind of fundamental source code, the CPU. It's timeless, holds all possibilities.
Okay.
And then there's the GPU, which is like the graphics card. It takes that code and renders the dynamic reality we actually experience, in space and time.
Wow. Okay, so our mission today, and hey, you're part of this just by tuning in, is to unpack this whole thing
Yeah, look at the evidence. Think about the implications.
and really understand why this CPU-GPU idea is gaining ground. It's moving beyond just theory, becoming a serious framework for understanding, well, everything.
And it's worth remembering, this idea isn't totally new. It has roots. Both Martima touches on some history here.
Right, like Plato's cave allegory. That's ancient, but it's the same fundamental question, isn't it? Is what we see the real deal?
It absolutely is. And then, much more recently, you've got Nick Bostrom's 2003 paper, Are You Living in a Computer Simulation?
Hmm.
Very influential.
Ah, yes, Bostrom's trilemma.
Exactly. He basically argued one of three things has to be true. Either civilizations like ours go extinct before they can run ancestor simulations,
Okay.
or if they reach that stage, they choose not to run them for some reason,
Or?
or we are almost certainly living in one right now.
Because of the sheer numbers, right? If you can make simulations, you'd probably make loads of them.
Precisely. The number of potential simulated realities could vastly outweigh the single base reality. Statistically, where are you more likely to be?
Makes you think.
Now, boldness is clear. There are assumptions baked in here. Like, we have to keep advancing technologically, and future beings have to actually want to run these simulations. Neither is a given.
Fair point.
But his argument is that now is a really key moment to be digging into this idea seriously.
Okay, so why now specifically? What does the source material say makes this timing so important?
Well, a few things. First, it just fundamentally forces us to question everything. What's real? Physics. Consciousness. It's a total paradigm shaker.
It's like finding out the stage you're standing on might be a projection.
Kind of, yeah. Second, Bothma argues this model, the CPU-GPU thing, might actually provide a new lens to understand stuff we already observe scientifically.
Like what?
Things like the fine-tuning problem, why the universe seems so perfectly set up for life. Or, the weirdness of quantum mechanics. Even consciousness itself. Maybe this framework offers clues.
Okay, now that is intriguing. Not just a thought experiment anymore.
Absolutely. And third, the potential implications for the future are huge. If this is right, it could revolutionize ethics, technology development, think AI, VR, even our search for meaning. Imagine AI if we knew the universe's source code.
That's massive. Both exciting and a little unnerving. And you mentioned data. The source says new data is emerging.
That's a key part of it. This isn't purely philosophical anymore. There's apparently new, clearer data coming out that seems to lend support to this kind of thinking. It's becoming a scientific question.
So what's the next step then, according to Bothma?
Testing. We need to figure out ways to actually test this hypothesis. Is it a real path forward, or, as he puts it, just a crazy idea? And he kind of invites us, the listeners, you, to be part of figuring that out.
Right. Okay, let's get into this cosmic code then, the CPU part of the model. What exactly is it supposed to be?
So the CPU is presented as the bedrock layer. It's pure information, fundamentally. Not physical like a computer chip, but this realm of quantum potential. It exists outside our usual concepts of time and space.
Holding all possibilities simultaneously.
That's the idea. Mm. Everything that could happen, has happened, will happen. It's all encoded there at once. The core concept is reality built on information, existing beyond time.
Timeless. That's a hard one to get your head around. How does Bothma explain it?
He uses this analogy of a vast library. Imagine every possible book ever written, all just there on the shelves, existing concurrently. No first page, no last page in sequence. It all just is.
Okay, like all moments are equally real in that informational realm?
Exactly.
Okay.
And non-local. That's another key aspect.
Yeah, we hear that in quantum physics. What's the connection here?
It means all the information in this CPU is interconnected, instantly accessible, no matter the distance. Like quantum entanglement, where measuring one particle instantly affects its partner miles away.
So information isn't bound by the speed of light in this CPU realm?
Apparently not. It implies this deep fundamental interconnectedness of everything.
Okay, but if everything is already encoded, what about free will? Does this mean everything's predetermined? That's the classic debate.
It absolutely brings that up, and Bothma addresses it. One view, the deterministic one, is, yeah, maybe free will is an illusion. Every choice already exists in the code.
Depressing.
Well, but he also discusses compatibilism.
Which is?
Think of it like navigating a huge decision tree or maybe a video game world. The rules and possibilities are set by the game's code, the CPU, but you still make choices about which path to take within those possibilities. Our conscious choices act like a kind of selection pressure, influencing which possibility from the CPU gets rendered by the GPU into our experienced reality. He even suggests memories might create new paths, which is interesting, possibly testable down the line.
So we're not just puppets, but we're maybe choosing from a pre-written script of possibilities.
That's one way to look at it, yeah. It preserves a sense of agency, even within a potentially informational universe.
What about controlling it? Could we ever, like, hack the CPU? Change the source code?
Theoretically,
Yeah.
maybe. Because it's all interconnected, manipulation isn't ruled out. But both Nokisma stresses our current massive limitations. He also suggests maybe our fundamental control is simply the act of choosing, of observing, which possibility becomes real, like the CPU is a mirror showing all potentials.
A mirror holding infinite universes. Wow.
But the crucial point the source makes is why this matters. Understanding the CPU isn't just navel-gazing.
Right. What are the tangible benefits, potentially?
Oh, huge. If we grasp the code, maybe we could manipulate space-time, access dark energy, create new kinds of matter, technologies we can't even conceive of now.
Okay.
Plus, it could unlock mysteries like quantum mechanics itself, the universe's origin, dark matter, dark energy.
The big questions.
The biggest. And on a personal level, deeper insights into consciousness, free will, meaning, the small stuff.
Oh, yeah. And just to clarify, the source says the CPU itself isn't bound by physics as we know it.
Correct. It's described as pre-physical.
Yeah.
It exists before our known laws emerge. It contains the potential for those laws, which then manifest during the GPU rendering process.
Okay, so CPU, timeless, non-local, pre-physical information potential. Got it. Now, the GPU, the engine that makes it all real for us. How does that work?
Right. The GPU is the rendering engine. It takes all that potential from the CPU and translates it into the classical space and time reality we perceive. Both Bothma's computer graphics analogy is really helpful here.
Like a graphics card taking data and making an image.
Exactly. It's the universe's graphics card, basically, turning abstract information into the tangible world.
And what triggers it? How does it decide which possibility to render from the infinite options in the CPU?
The source talks about an information threshold. When a quantum system interacts enough or reaches a certain level of complexity or outcome stability, the GPU is triggered to render a specific state.
An information threshold. So it's not random.
Doesn't seem like it. The idea is that everything in the CPU can be read by the GPU, but it's the accumulation of interactions and information that pushes one possibility over the threshold into becoming definite rendered reality. Potentiality becomes actuality.
This feels like it ties directly into the whole observer effect in quantum mechanics. Observation changing reality.
Absolutely. The source really emphasizes that observation isn't passive. We aren't just watching a movie, we're interacting with the projector, maybe even feeding it information. We are co-creating reality.
So every time I look at something, measure something, even think about something, I'm contributing to that information threshold, helping the GPU decide what to render.
That's the implication. Every interaction adds to the information. And the source suggests humans might have a unique role here with our ability to imagine, conceptualize, and build entirely new complex things based on our interactions.
We're not just observers, we're creators within the system.
Potentially, yes.
Could we ever build something to see the GPU doing its thing, watch the rendering happen?
Hmm, that's tricky. Both wordsmiths suggest, maybe not directly, the GPU is intrinsically part of the rendering process itself. How do you observe the act of observation or rendering without becoming part of it? It's like trying to see your own eyeball without a mirror.
Right, tangled up in itself.
But he does suggest exploring different kinds of interactions, developing new tools, maybe things beyond our current senses or instruments. As we get better at manipulating things on smaller scales, perhaps new insights will emerge.
Okay, so the observer is key. Not passive, but active. This brings us back to measurement. How does the source contrast the old view with the quantum one?
Well, the classical view is simple.
Mm-hmm.
You measure something, you record what's there. The observer is separate, neutral.
Like taking a photograph.
Right. But quantum mechanics blew that up. It showed the act of measuring changes the system. You can't measure a quantum particle's position without affecting its momentum, for example.
The observer effect. And the mystery is always what causes that change. What collapses the wave function? The superposition of possibilities.
Exactly. And in this CPU-GPU model, Bothma proposes a direct answer. The observer is the trigger. Or rather, any interaction, any measurement, any contribution to that information threshold we talked about. That's what prompts the GPU to render a definite state.
So my looking at it, or a machine measuring it, pushes it over the edge from possibility to reality.
That's the core idea. And more complex interactions, more information gathered, they carry more weight in tipping the scales towards a specific outcome.
But the source also warns we need to understand this collapse without getting too tangled up in it ourselves if we want to actually test it.
Yes, that's the challenge for experimentalists. How do you study the process without your study fundamentally altering the process in ways you can't account for?
It raises some really fundamental questions about what even counts as an observer.
Oh, definitely. Both Macarena lists a bunch. Does it need consciousness? Is a Geiger counter, an observer, a rock sitting in the sun?
Mm.
And if the observer influences the outcome, are we seeing what's really there or just what our observation made real? Does the simulation's code have specific rules for dealing with observers?
And what about animals? If they don't have consciousness like us, do they interact with reality differently? Do they solidify things in their own way?
Yeah, do they operate under a different part of the code? These are deep, deep questions. The source really leaves you, the listener, pondering your own role in this whole cosmic drama. What kind of lens do we need to see more clearly?
And to build on that shaping of reality, the source introduces quantum Darwinism. How does that concept fit in?
Quantum Darwinism.
Hmm.
It sounds like survival of the fittest, but for quantum states.
That's basically it, yeah. Applying natural selection ideas to the quantum realm.
So how does a quantum state become fitter?
By being more robust, more stable, crucially, by leaving copies or records of itself in the surrounding environment. Think of it like leaving an informational footprint.
Ah, okay. So multiple systems can indirectly observe it through these environmental records.
Exactly. The states that are better at imprinting themselves on the environment are the ones that become stable, objective, classical reality for everyone. The more interaction, the stronger the imprint. Reality favors states that leave evidence.
Interesting. So it's not just one direct observation, but this broader environmental record? Right. And this leads both Mal to ask, how did the initial information get there? Was there an inherent reason, or was it a choice? He contrasts human-made complexity with natural complexity, sort of positioning us as the current drivers of complexity, and now responsible for what comes next.
We're building on the existing information, creating more intricate patterns, and the source points out, again, that our observing and measuring changes things, but understanding how it changes things is the key to maybe seeing reality differently, seeing other potential paths.
Which brings us neatly to, how could we actually test any of this? The source outlines some potential experiments, though they admit they're highly speculative.
Okay, let's hear them. The first one uses entanglement.
Yeah. The hypothesis is basically, if you have entangled particles and you interact with one in a way that stores information about its state, that interaction should cause both particles to decohere, lose their quantum fuzziness simultaneously.
So recording information about one breaks the quantum link for both.
That's the idea. The setup would involve creating entangled pairs, isolating them like crazy.
Yeah, which is hard enough.
Extremely hard. Then you'd continuously measure one particle, recording the results, while watching the other particle very closely for signs of decoherence.
And you'd expect to see the second particle decohere more as you interact more with the first one?
That's the prediction based on the model. More interaction, more recording, faster collapse of the quantum state for both.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the source flags the huge challenges, maintaining isolation, dealing with noise. It's tough.
But it directly tests that link between interaction, information recording, and quantum collapse in the CPU-GPU framework.
Precisely.
And the second experiment sounds even wilder, probing space-time itself.
This one's really out there. The idea starts with the GPU possibly having computational limits. Like any computer, maybe it can't render reality with infinite precision.
So reality might be pixelated at the tiniest scale.
That's the speculation. At the Planck scale, space-time might not be smooth, but discrete. And this pixelation might cause tiny, tiny fluctuations in the speed of light, almost unnoticeable.
Wow. Okay. How on earth would you even try to detect that?
With an interferometer of unbelievable precision, something way beyond what we can build now. You'd split a laser, send the beams through different paths, hoping one path shows more of this hypothetical pixelation, and then recombine them, looking for minuscule shifts in the interference pattern.
Caused by those tiny speed of light variations.
That would be the hope. But again, huge caveats. Building it is currently impossible. We don't even have solid theories for how discrete spacetime would affect light. And any tiny fluctuation seen could easily be something else entirely.
It's highly theoretical.
Very. But the connection to the model is that it's a direct test of the idea that the GPU's limitations might impose a fundamental resolution on reality itself.
Mind blown. Okay, but stepping back.
Yeah.
If we could understand this, if we could potentially even manipulate this, the source brings up some serious concerns, right?
Oh, yes. Bothma doesn't shy away from the potential downsides. He explicitly mentions weaponization. History shows us big scientific leaps often have a dark side.
Like nuclear fission, genetics.
Exactly. Amazing potential, but also devastating applications. It forces a really profound ethical question. Should we even be trying to unlock these secrets? What if we gain the ability to fundamentally alter reality and misuse it?
The potential for catastrophe seems immense.
It does. It makes you ponder the idea of an ultimate programmer, if there is one, and our responsibility in figuring out the universe's architecture, the CPU, the GPU.
So why pursue it then, given the risks? What's the driving motivation, according to Bothma?
Well, the potential upside is also immense. Understanding these processes could lead to capabilities far beyond anything we can currently imagine. That push to understand, to achieve more, is fundamental to progress. He frames it almost like a test for humanity. Can we handle this knowledge? Can we use it to create things not possible today?
That inherent curiosity again. The drive to know, to build, to explore.
Pretty much. But the source concludes with a strong call for caution, humility, and responsibility. We have to think about the ethics, strive for betterment, not destruction.
And there's that final intriguing thought.
Yeah, that maybe our interactions within this reality, your interactions as a listener even, are the whole point.
Yeah.
That maybe action, trying things, exploring is what's needed to see what reality was meant to become. Less talk, more doing, perhaps.
Okay, so let's try and wrap up this deep dive. We've journeyed through Brian Bothma's cosmic computer ideas, exploring this CP-GPU model.
This idea of a timeless informational source code, the CPU.
Being rendered into our experienced reality by a dynamic GPU.
Right, and how this offers a potential new lens on things like quantum mechanics. Maybe the weirdness is like glitches in the rendering, dark matter, consciousness.
And the absolutely crucial role of the observer, of interaction, in actually shaping or selecting the reality that gets rendered. It's not a passive process.
Definitely not. It really challenges our assumptions about existence.
So the final thought we want to leave you with, our listener, is this. If our reality is some kind of simulation running on this cosmic computer, what does that actually mean for us? For our place in it all, for the nature of our lives?
What new questions does that spark in your mind? We really encourage you to keep thinking about these ideas. Maybe even check out Bothma's books. There's certainly a lot more to ponder.